Hey, everyone. Welcome to our Inner Edge live weekly. Super excited to have you here. Just triple checking, making sure that I am appearing live on all my platforms. All right, cool. We are good. Okay. So as we have people that are joining, first off, if you are joining live, say hey, let me know that you're in the room. If you are joining and catching the replay, just say hey, I'm catching the replay and tune in, okay? And also, I would love for you to share where you're tuning from, right? And then I also want you to share one word that describes your workplace culture right now. I love starting off our lives with that because it gives me a sense of where you're at with your culture within your organization. And for me right now, I want to say our word is evolving. I always say our main phrase in our company is alignment before assignment. So that is one of our main core values that we built this agency off of. Actually, it is going on 8 years now. So we built our agency in 2017. Um, and from there, alignment before assignment has always been the space. And now I feel like we're totally aligned and now we're beginning to evolve together. So that's what I would say our space is. So drop one word when you think about your team and the team that you're managing. What would you say is the one word that stands out for you? And then I'm going to go ahead and ask you another question. On a scale of 1 to nobody leaves unless they retire, so from a 1, meaning that it's a revolving door, people are constantly leaving your organization, to a 10 where like nobody leaves unless it is time for them to kick the bucket or they completely retire. How strong is your team's retention right now? So 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. How strong is your team's retention right now? Type the number in the chat, and there's absolutely no judgment. This is just a pulse check for me to kind of see where we're starting, and those who are tuning in to kind of see how we can assist you. And it also helps us with the adjusting the content that we bring to you every week. Okay. It's interesting that strong teams can risk if emotional connection isn't being nurtured. So um, that's what today's conversation is really all about. So, again, welcome to the EI Retention Playbook series that we're working on right now. And today, our session is about how emotional intelligence prevents employee turnover. I am Nikki, and today we're focusing on one powerful skill. It's called emotional connection through communication. And so want to talk about how it keeps your best people from walking out the door. So a couple of weeks ago, I introduced a framework that we use and what's called ABC. It's called always be connecting, right? So today we're going to specifically talk because there's different ways that you can connect with your team. But today we're going to talk about connecting through communication. Okay. There's different ways you can connect through physical, you can connect through communication, you could connect through like body language and so forth. And today we're focusing on that. And so I'm going to ask you a quick question, right? There's a couple questions that I have. I would love for you to answer. One, so you can, I'm going 1, 2, 3. And so as I'm asking the question, you could put 1 dash your answer, 2 dash your answer, 3 dash your answer. So I know which question you're answering. But number one is, how much talent is your organization losing because people don't feel emotionally connected? How much talent is your organization losing because people don't feel emotionally connected? I shared on my stories, I shared this week how I was talking with a company of a potential client, and 65% of their organization is a revolving door, meaning that 65% of their team leaves. And when I started doing surveys and when I started really paying attention to, the individuals that are in the organization, we identified that there was a lack of emotional connection. And one thing that we do when we're in our workshop is we identify how each individual communicates based off of their style of learning, their style of implementation. And some of your staff, their value of emotional connection is very high. And you have to understand how to regulate those people and not just throw those people under the rug. When I was, speaking with my husband and sharing with him, how we do our trainings and potentially, doing trainings for his job, it was like it clicked with him because he's so used to, oh, this person is emotional, oh, bump it, like they shouldn't be that way. And you can't just disregard someone because they're emotionally connected. Emotionally connected people can run so much farther than somebody who's not emotionally connected and that's just there doing the job the way that you may want them to. Emotional connected people usually stay longer, right? People who are emotionally connected to their role, they're not the ones that's going around whispering, talking about how everybody else got a raise. They're so focused and they're so intentional about their role. They're not worrying about all the gossip and everything else that's going on in the job as long as they feel connected to their role. So, number one, again, how much talent is your organization losing because people don't feel emotionally connected? Number two, when someone resigns, do you know it's coming or does it surprise you? Like, do you randomly get the notification of someone just saying, hey, here's my 2 week notice, and they're gone? Or did you know that it was coming? Right? My husband has been carrying the ball, working 2 jobs, right? And genuinely not having to necessarily be there. There was an altercation where something happened at work where he was very disrespected. And he's someone who's on time, very dependable, does his job. He's not sitting in his car like most people. Um, he is really diligent. Like the store loved him being there, they loved his presence, being in the store. But one of the managers who was not used to him came into the store, giving him, explaining to him a new policy that the company was implementing. And he asked my husband to sign it. And he was belittling him as he was talking to him in front of everyone. Right. And so it just made him feel uncomfortable. And so he put in his notice, right? Like, as a matter of fact, his notice was him showing up with his uniform saying, hey, here's this job. This is not for me, right? And as we see more and more baby boomers that are leaving the workplace, you're going to get people who are more mentally um, um, conscious about their role at work and that are more focused on, do they feel safe? Do they feel emotionally connected to the role? Do they like being there? Right? Because to be honest with you, we have multiple income streams, right? And so he can get income streams for other places, from internet, from his music, so many different places, but he really liked the job. And it was tiring, but the emotional connection to the role is what kept him there, right? And then it just took that one person of just showing him, hey, I don't appreciate you, and disrespect, and he bowed out. Um, and then number three, if your top performer got a job offer tomorrow. So let's say somebody who's your top performer in your organization, let's say they're number one and throughout the entire organization, and someone hears about it from another company and they slide them an offer. Would they have the emotional response to stay? Would they stick with you? Or would they bow out and go on to something else? Keep those in mind as we begin to dive in, okay? Those questions. And feel free to answer below. I know some of you love the privacy, and so you send me the messages. It's totally fine that you slide the answers in my DM and we talk it out, right? And I invite you to our info sessions that we have after these calls. So one, I want to share with you how I worked with the department. Right? I'm going to share with you a story. There was a department that had a 60% turnover rate, right? It's the annual turnover rate. That's not the one that I'm talking to right now. That one has a 65% annual turnover rate, which is really exciting for me because they're a really large organization. But this one had a 60% annual turnover rate. Leadership assumed that it was just about the money, but exit interviews told a different story. So, one thing that we started implementing when we noticed that there was a high turnover within our organization was we started doing what's called exit interviews. And I definitely recommend this if you have an organization, large, small, whatever, that you have an exit interview. You should even have this with your clients that are leaving, right? And one of the things we found out was that people felt emotionally disconnected and they felt undervalued, right? And so we began implementing some EI based practices, right? At the time, we didn't realize that it was EI based until we further started studying like the real connection to the trainings that we were doing within this organization. But basically, it was a difference. The difference was emotional connection. People didn't just stay, right? They became advocates who recruited other great talent, right? And so one of the things that we found out when we were doing the check-ins was the personalized recognition, right? We began implementing that. We also began regular emotional check-ins, right? So we started checking in, like, how are you feeling? And even today in my organization, I do that now. I do emotional check-ins, getting better at it, but it does take time. And then we had a a culture of psychological safety, right? So what we would do is we would check the psychological safety of individuals within the organization. Did they feel safe to express how they feel, right? Or do they feel like they have to go to someone else? And within 8 months, the turnover dropped to 15%. That is a 45% drop. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know the organization that I just evaluated for 65% turnover rate, they were losing um, 11, 11.5 million annually due to turnover on the low end. On the high end, it was like 17.5% or 17.5 million they were losing. And just off of us implementing and decreasing, if we decrease it by 30%, it actually saves them a total of $5 million, like 5.7 million annually by us decreasing it. This particular organization, we decreased it by 45%. So that's more than average of what we usually help. And so here's the kicker. The salaries stayed the same. I remember I was sharing this story with one of my colleagues, and they were like, how much did it cost them in salaries? Like, how much did they have to offer people to stay? We didn't even raise any salaries. We literally just focused on the three things that I just shared with you. Number one, regular emotional check ins. Two, personalized recognition. And three, a culture of psychological safety. So we created an environment where people felt safe. And the difference was is that there was an emotional connection and people didn't just stay, they became advocates who recruited other great talent. Now, I can't remember the number. I should have looked it up before this live, but it's a very high percentage of retention when someone from your team refers someone to you. Those people are more susceptible to staying than the people that actually are there. True story. With our organization, same thing. The people who were referred to us, they've been my diehard. They're like through hospital bed, me working through stuff. They have been my diehard people. But the people that referred them dipped out. It was too much. But the ones who were referred were the ones that stuck by me. And so having talent that is being referred to you, bar none, is amazing. And so I want to talk to you about why emotional connection drives retention. So we talked about how, emotional connection takes your churn to loyal staff. But let's talk about why that connection drives retention. So people don't necessarily leave jobs, they leave relationships and experiences. So when you have relationships, when you have experiences, people are tend to stay, right? Because of the culture. And that's also why we named our certification that we have going on right now. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to check it out. You would go to eiready.com/cert, CERT, and it is called the Culture Architect Certification, right? It is to help employ executives managers and small business owners to actually be emotional intelligence um, trainers within their organization and embody emotional intelligence so that they can retain their staff and their talent. And so we certify you on what we actually do within corporations as a small business, an executive leader who may not have the budget to be able to employ us to come out. You now have an opportunity to join our trainings. And so understanding that people, again, they don't leave jobs, they leave relationships and they leave poor experiences. And so when employees feel seen, they feel safe and valued, they invest in culture. Okay. When emotional connection turns to I have to be here into I want to be here, your retention with your staff is going to go up. And I'm going to pause for a minute because I always assume that people know what retention means. Retention means when somebody comes into your organization, whether they are a client, whether they are a staff member, how long does that person stay? If you notice, some people are leaving 6 months, 18 months within your organization. Like that is a huge red flag. And then pay attention to how many are leaving, right? And so, what is the percentage? 60 to 65% is very, very high. On average, right now, it's around 25 to 35%. And we've been assisting some organizations to get as low as 15%. But here's the cost of that emission, right? It is costing you a lot of money to retrain, get new people. You're taking people off of, their tasks in order to do interviews, so on and so forth. So you're using unnecessary talent to retrain it. You know that saying where they say it's cheaper to keep her? It is cheaper to keep your team. It is cheaper to invest in them and their skill set in order to grow your organization. You're going to spend so much more time and energy keep trying to funnel new. So if your percentage is very, very high, it is very costly for your organization. So this week, I want to talk to you about 3 ways to build emotional connection this week. Number 1 is start with onboarding. One of the things when I was sharing with my husband, he's a manager at his company, and they keep trying to make him a store manager. He's been there going on 20 years now. And, one of the things he saw was like, oh my God, we got to start this at onboarding, right? It's so important to have that emotional connection from jump. But I want you to think about these 3 ways while you're building connection this week and implement it, okay? So, one is start with onboarding. You're going to make new hires feel genuinely welcome, not just oriented, but on the jargon and just watching videos, but you're going to genuinely find out, why is that person here? Why did this person get added to my team? Ask the necessary questions. Number 2, you're going to do a regular emotional check-in. So you're going to go beyond project updates. You're going to see how they're really experiencing work. One organization that I'm working with right now, they 85% 85% of the team is dealing with technical issues with a work from home role. The company initially was an in-person role and they sent everyone work from home. But as we are doing, asking around and getting a feel of the culture and of the company, we're finding that individuals are necessarily experiencing challenges working from home due to tech. Right. And the manager in their mind is, oh, they'll figure it out. Right. Or, oh, they know that this resource is here for help desk. But do they really? Do they really know that they're there for them? Right. So do some check-ins, see how people are really experiencing the task and the work that you're doing. Number 3 is recognition that resonates. So you're going to acknowledge some wins in ways that align with the individual's values and motivators. So you're not just going to say, oh, congratulations, Jessica, you showed up to work on time. And that's not something that drives her or motivates her, right? Congratulations, Jessica. You had a challenging morning and you still hopped in and you got the job done. Or congratulations, Jessica. I see that you were in the meeting. Someone said something that frustrated you, and you took a moment to pause. You didn't react immediately. What does Jessica value? Pay attention and acknowledge that. And so, your challenge this week is to schedule one on one emotional check ins with your top 3 performers. You're going to create one personalized recognition for each member, right? A recognition moment, for each member. And then you're going to launch one small team activity designed to build trust and psychological safety. And if you want to see how this fits into a complete EI retention strategy, let's set up a personalized lunch and learn, which we do for your office. We do it in person or we do it virtually, where we'll basically pinpoint your retention gaps, identify what is causing disconnection, and give you tools to turn employees into long-term advocates. And so it's not just a sales pitch, it is it's a strategic tailored session that you can put into action the very same day. And it's really cool because once you register for our lunch and learns, you have a tool that immediately after, because I have found that individuals who show up for trainings, whether if it's virtual or in person, the hardest part is the implementation. And so we give you an interactive tool that, let's say Jessica walks off the meeting and she's like, oh my God, I'm so fired up. I'm so pumped up. And then she goes to work the next day and she has an encounter and she's like, shoot, what did that training tell me to do here? She has an interactive tool where she can look down at her phone, type in what is happening or talk to what is happening in case she's so frustrated and she can't get it down. She's able to get that tool to tell her and walk her through the necessary steps that she needs to with that individual. Bonus point if she knows what their personality type is. It has our methodology and everything that we train on within that tool. So all she has to do is type it out and she will get an immediate response on how to respond. And so in closing, I really want to leave you with, people don't leave jobs. They leave relationship and poor emotional experiences. So they leave poor relationships and poor emotional experiences. So when you create genuine connection, psychological safety, and meaningful engagement, retention stops being a problem and starts being a natural outcome. Lead with emotional intelligence, build trust daily, and watch how people choose to build their futures right where they are with you. And until next time, lead with awareness, connection, authenticity, and create workplaces where people want to stay. The next step from here is for you to join our info session. So you would go to eiready.com/info, and you will be able to find out about our next info session that we have coming up, which will be next Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can bring all of your questions there. And if you are ready to move forward with a lunch and learn and actually move forward with your office, you can just slide in my DM and I'll give you a direct calendar invite to do a one-on-one call with me so that you can learn about the lunch and learns. And we come in, we work with your office in person or virtually, or we can help you and your staff. Bye for now, and looking forward to working with you.